इससे देश का फायदा नहीं होने वाला। और पूरा का पूरा फायदा, देश का धन चुने हुए लोगों के हाथ में जाता है। मैंने पार्लियामेंट में सवाल पूछा, बीजेपी के लोगों से पूछा, हिंदुस्तान को 90 लोग चलाते हैं, देश के अफसर हैं, पूरे बजट को बांटते हैं। पार्लियामेंट में पूछा कि इनमें से ओबीसी कितने हैं, दलित कितने हैं, आदिवासी कितने हैं। बीजेपी के लोग चुप हो गए। ओबीसी की कम से कम 50% आबादी है, दलितों की 15% आबादी है, आदिवासियों की तकरीबन 12% आबादी है। 90 अफसर में से 3 ओबीसी हैं। कैसी ओबीसी सरकार चल रही है? उनको कोने में बैठा देते हैं, छोटे छोटे डिपार्टमेंट पकड़ा देते हैं, की सबसे बड़ी कंपनी, 100-200 सबसे बड़ी कंपनी की लिस्ट निकालो, मुझे दिखा दो इनमें कौन सा ओबीसी है, कौन सा दलित है, कौन सा आदिवासी है। स्टेट की ब्यूरोक्रेसी में दिखा दो। आबादी आपकी 50%, दलितों की 15%, आदिवासियों की 12%। और भागीदारी आपकी कहीं भी नहीं। कंपनीज का नाम निकालो और मुझे दिखा दो इन कंपनियों में ओबीसी कहां बैठा हुआ है, दलित कहां बैठा है, आदिवासी कहां बैठा है। ये सिर्फ मैं आईएएस की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, हर फील्ड में यह हालत है। तो मैंने सवाल पूछा, मैंने कहा देखिए जाति जनगणना होनी चाहिए, देश को पता लगना चाहिए कि इस देश में ओबीसी कितने हैं। उसके बाद नरेंद्र मोदी जी के भाषण बदल जाते हैं। पहले अपने आप को ओबीसी कहते थे, मेरे भाषण के बाद कहते हैं हिंदुस्तान में तो सिर्फ एक जात है, वो भी गरीब। हिंदुस्तान में सिर्फ एक जात, तो आप ओबीसी कैसे बन गए? तो हमने निर्णय ले रखा है, जैसे ही हमारी सरकार आएगी, दिल्ली में आएगी, हम जाति जनगणना आपके लिए करके दिखा देंगे। और देखिए, जो मैंने शुरुआत में कहा, यह विचारधारा की लड़ाई है। करोड़ों लोगों को बीजेपी की सरकार ने गरीबी में फिर से धकेल दिया है। जो काम हमने भोजन के अधिकार से, मनरेगा की मदद से किया, वो सब खत्म कर दिया इन लोगों ने। और हमें दो हिंदुस्तान नहीं चाहिए। एक हिंदुस्तान अरबपतियों का, मीडिया वालों का, सेलफोन वालों का, अपने का, उसमें कोई सच्चाई नहीं है। हिंदुस्तान के युवा सोशल मीडिया से जी नहीं सकते, कमा नहीं सकते। हिंदुस्तान के युवाओं को रोजगार की जरूरत है। यह काम नरेंद्र मोदी जी और एनडीए की सरकार नहीं कर सकती। यह काम सिर्फ इंडिया अलायंस कर सकता है, क्योंकि इस काम को करने के लिए हिंदुस्तान की जनता की आवाज को सुनना होगा, नफरत मिटानी होगी और इस देश को एक कर जोड़कर आगे जाना पड़ेगा। कन्याकुमारी से कश्मीर हम चले, 4000 किलोमीटर चले, नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान हमने खोली। आप कांग्रेस पार्टी की विचारधारा समझना चाहते हो, इस लाइन से आप समझ जाओगे। सिर्फ एक लाइन की जरूरत है। अगर आपके दिल में हिंदुस्तान के लोगों के लिए मोहब्बत है, अगर आप नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोलना चाहते हो, तो आप कांग्रेसी हो। मैं कांग्रेस पार्टी के कार्यकर्ताओं से आखिरी बात बोलना चाहता हूं। देखिए, ये जो पार्टी है, और महाराष्ट्र के कार्यकर्ताओं से खासतौर से बोलना चाहता हूं, क्योंकि आप स्पेशल हो। मैं महाराष्ट्र में चला, मैं जब भारत जोड़ो यात्रा में चल रहा था, जैसे ही मैं महाराष्ट्र के अंदर आया, मैंने सोचा कि देखो, ये कांग्रेस की जमीन है, ये कांग्रेसियों की जमीन है। इस जमीन में लोगों को कांग्रेस की विचारधारा बिना समझाए समझ आ जाती है। और अगर हमारी लड़ाई शुरू हुई तो महाराष्ट्र से हुई थी, इसलिए हम यहां नागपुर में आए हैं आपसे बात करने। तो आप बब्बर शेर हो, आपको किसी से नहीं डरना। आप नहीं डरते हो, आप बब्बर शेर हो, और आपकी विचारधारा की लड़ाई है, आपके दिल की लड़ाई है। और आप और हम मिलकर, आप और हम मिलकर महाराष्ट्र में और पूरे हिंदुस्तान में चुनाव जीतने जा रहे हैं। आप सबका दिल से बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नमस्कार, जय हिंद।
अरे तिकडला माईक चालू करा.
हॅलो, मी आता विनंती करतो काँग्रेस अध्यक्ष आदरणीय मल्लिकार्जुन खरगे साहेबांना की त्यांनी यावं आणि आपले विचार आपल्या समोर मांडावे.
इस मंच पर बैठे हुए कांग्रेस के नेता, हमारे चाहते श्री राहुल गांधी जी, अजय माखन जी, केसी वेणुगोपाल जी, सुखविंदर सिंह जी सुक्कू, रेवंत रेड्डी जी, रमेश चेनिताला जी, नाना पटोले जी, बाळासाहेब थोरात जी, विजय वडवट्टीवार जी, और बंटी पाटिल जी और सारे इस मंच पर बैठे हुए सभी हमारे वर्किंग कमेटी के मेंबर्स, कांग्रेस के नेता और यहां पधारे हुए मेरे भाई और बहन और मीडिया के मेरे दोस्तों, अब मैं ज्यादा बोलने नहीं जाता क्योंकि जो कहना था वो राहुल गांधी जी ने पूरी बात आपके सामने रखी और मैं यहां जो आया हूं कि 139वें स्थापना दिवस पर कांग्रेस के अध्यक्ष के नाते कांग्रेस का झंडा फहराने के लिए आया हूं। ये नागपुर इतना पवित्र स्थल है जहां गांधी जी, डॉक्टर बाबा साहेब अम्बेडकर, ये सभी लोग यहां पर देश के लिए काम किए, समाज के लिए काम किए और सामाजिक न्याय के लिए वो लड़े हैं। ऐसे एक पवित्र स्थान पर हम आए हैं और हमको ये लगता है कि अगर कोई देश के लोग प्रेरणा ले सकते हैं वो सिर्फ नागपुर से ले सकते हैं। नागपुर एक क्रांतिकारों की भूमि है। इसी भूमि पर बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने लाखों लोगों को अपने विचारधारा में लाया और उनको सभी को एक सामाजिक न्याय दिलाया। महात्मा गांधी जी भी वर्धा और यहां पर कम से कम 2600 दिन यहां पर उन्होंने गुजारा है। करीब 7 साल उन्होंने मेहनत की। देश को आजादी दिलाने के लिए उनका काम यहां बहुत बड़ा है। देश के कोने कोने से लोग यहां आकर उनका सलाह लेते थे और देश को आजादी दिलाने के लिए क्या करना, इस विचारधारा का यहां पर बात होती थी। लेकिन भाइयों, यहां दो है, एक प्रोग्रेसिव यानी प्रगति पर विचारधारा डॉक्टर अंबेडकर की है और दूसरे तरफ हमारे पीछे आरएसएस का बंगला है, क्योंकि आरएसएस भी जो पैदा हुई यहीं से हुई और आज यही आरएसएस देश को बर्बाद कर रही है। मोदी आरएसएस का झंडा लेके आगे जा रहे हैं और उसके पीछे आरएसएस है। इसीलिए आप सोचना चाहिए, आपकी बड़ी जवाबदारी है। जब तक आप नहीं उठेंगे तब तक ये जो समानता का एक झंडा है ये आप नहीं फहरा सकते हैं। तो भाइयों, मैं यहां से इतना सबको विनती करूंगा कि पिछले 10 साल में देश में भाजपा और राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक ये देश को तंग कर रहे हैं और ये जो संघ की सरकार है, अगर इसको नहीं रोक सके तो देश बर्बादी की ओर जाएगा और लोकतंत्र खत्म हो जाएगी। देश का संविधान जो बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर और पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी ने मिलकर बनाया वो भी खत्म हो जाएगा। जिस देश में वोटिंग का अधिकार नहीं था, वो वोटिंग का अधिकार संविधान आने के बाद ही हुआ। महिलाओं को, पुरुषों को, युवाओं को और आज जो 18 साल के युवा भी जो वोटिंग कर रहे हैं वो राजीव गांधी की देन है। ऐसे चीजें कांग्रेस पार्टी ही कर सकती है, दूसरा कोई नहीं कर सकता। बाकी के लोग सिर्फ अपना संपत्ति कैसा बढ़ा लेना, संपत्ति को कैसा बचाना और संपत्ति को और 10 गुना करना, ये उनका काम है। लोग ये कहते हैं और बार बार मोदी जी और उनके लोग देश की प्रगति हो गई, हम आने के बाद देश आगे बढ़ रहा है। अरे भाई, क्या आजादी 2014 में ही मिली है? क्या मोदी आने के बाद आपको आजादी मिली है? मोदी आने के बाद ही आपके स्कूल खुल गए हैं? मोदी आने के बाद भी रेल चल रहा है? मोदी आने के बाद भी मेडिकल कॉलेज चल रहे हैं? अरे मोदी, ये तो सब मिलने के बाद वो आज उस गति पे बैठे हैं। मेरे को लिख के भेजे हैं, थोड़ा मैं मराठी में बोलूं। अरे भाई, मी मराठीत बोलतोय, नाही म्हणून नाही, पण माझी विचारधारा जे आहे ते जवाहरलाल नेहरूच्या विचारधारेवर आणि बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरच्या विचारधारेवर, महात्मा फुलेच्या विचारधारावर आम्ही चालतो। पण मोदीजी कुणाच्या विचारधारेवर चालतात? ते आरएसएसच्या विचारधारेवर, समानतेच्या विरुद्ध आहेत। आणि ते आज ना उद्या पुन्हा दलितांना खाली दाबतील। कारण स्कॉलरशिप बंद आहेत, बोर्डिंग्स बंद आहेत, शाळाला जे ग्रँट द्यावं ते देत नाहीत। लोकांचे, मुलांचे, युवाचे सगळे आज स्कॉलरशिप बंद झालेले आहेत। आणि आणखीन एक तुम्हाला सांगायचं आहे, शिक्षण हे महत्वाचं आहे। म्हणूनच बाबासाहेब आंबेडकरांनी सांगितले, एज्युकेट, ऑर्गनाइज अँड एज्युटेट। शिक्षण घ्या, संघर्ष करा, एक व्हा, हे त्यांची वाणी आहे। ते आज आपण घेऊन चाललं पाहिजे। ते जर नाही घेतलं, तुम्ही विसरला, तर तुम्ही कुठेही राहणार नाही। जे काही मिळालं तेही जाणार आहे मोदीच्या सरकारमुळं, आरएसएसच्या लोकांमुळं। बंधूंनो, आज काय? आज लोकतंत्र खतरे में है। आज इतने इन्फ्लेशन, एवढा प्राइस राइज आहे, किंमत एवढे वाढलेत अवश्य वस्तूचे, ते सगळे आकाशला, म्हणजे आकाशपर्यंत पोहोचलेले आहेत। त्याच्याबद्दल मोदी काही बोलत नाही। त्याच्यानंतर रोजगार, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट इतका आहे, देशात 30 लाख नोकऱ्या खाली आहेत। पण 30 लाख नोकऱ्या खाली असताना सुद्धा मोदी ते भरत नाही। कारण की जे नोकरी भरला तर ते रिझर्वेशन त्याच्यात होईल, बॅकवर्ड क्लासला मिळतील, शेड्यूल कास्ट लोकांना मिळतील, आणि मागास वर्गाला मिळतील, आणि हे जे एसटी लोकांना मिळेल। म्हणून ते 30 लाख वेकेन्सी जे सरकारमध्ये खाली आहेत ते भरत नाही। आणि 8-10 हजार कुठं रिक्रुटमेंट केलं तर त्याचे जे हे आहेत नोकरीचे पट्टे तेच वाढतात। अरे आमच्या काळात डेप्टी सेक्रेटरी, अंडर सेक्रेटरी, कोणीतरी सेक्शन ऑफिसर पोस्ट ऑफिसने पाठवत होता नोकरीचे हे पत्र। आता मोदी साहेब स्वतः स्टेजवर येऊन ते फर्स्ट डिव्हिजन, सेकंड डिव्हिजनचे डॉक्युमेंट ते देतात। तुम्ही विचार करा, एक मनुष्य इतका खाली जातोय म्हणजे ते देशाला फार वाईट आहे। ते मी आता म्हणणं योग्य नाही, कारण दुसरं काही शब्द बोललो की आमचं एवढं केलेलं सगळं मातीत जात आहे। म्हणून मी त्याला आता छेडत नाही, दुसरं केव्हा तरी वेळ आली तर मी बोलतो। आज गरीब आणि श्रीमंतामध्ये फार आज हे झालेलं आहे. गरीब अतिगरीब होत आहे, श्रीमंत अतिश्रीमंत होत आहे. अरे या देशात आम्ही जेव्हा सरकार सोडली त्यावेळेला केवळ 5 लाख करोड रुपये आम्ही कर्ज सोडून गेलो होतो. पण आज मोदींनी देशावर 200 लाख कोटी रुपये कर्ज आज त्यांनी केलेलं आहे. 2 लाख करोड्स म्हणजे 200 लाख कोटी रुपये आमच्यावर कर्ज त्यांनी ठेवलंय आणि म्हणतोय सब ठीक है, सब खुशहाल है, हमने बहुत लोगों को आगे बढ़ाया. क्या आगे बढ़ाया? 200 लाख तो आपने कर्जा रखा और जो सहुलतें मिल रही थी वो सब एक एक होकर आप काट रहे हो और जो इरिगेशन प्रोजेक्ट अपने थे वो भी काट रहे हो. म्हणजे प्रत्येक गोष्टीत ते लोक आज बजेट कमी करायचं आणि शेवटली सांगायचं की मी हे केलो ते केलो. अरे बाप, तुम्ही मणिपूरमध्ये ते लोक मरू लागलेत, तिथं अनेक स्त्रियांचं रेप होऊ लागलंय आणि लहान मुलं मरू लागलेत. तिथं मोदी जात नाहीत. कुठं जातोय? इनॉग्रेट करण्यासाठी अहमदाबादला डायमंड हाऊसला जातोय. मोदी कुठे जातात की त्यांना जे पाहिजे पार्लमेंट सोडून त्यांनी लखनौमध्ये राहतात. अरे एकीकडे पार्लमेंट आहे चाललेलं आहे, दुसरीकडे प्राईम मिनिस्टर होम मिनिस्टर हे बाहेर फिरतात. हे काय कुठंतरी असं होतंय? पार्लमेंट कशासाठी बोलवतात? आम्ही एमपीज कशासाठी जातो की लोकांचे मुद्दे तिथं ठेवण्यासाठी. लोक आता काय अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट आहे, बेरोजगारी जे आहे, तसंच जे इन्फ्लेशन आहे, हे सगळ्या गोष्टी आणि आपल्या किसानांचं फार्मर्सचं हे प्रश्न तिथं ठेवण्यासाठी आम्ही जातो. पण तिथं प्रधानमंत्री पायच ठेवला नाही, राज्यसभेत तरी पाय ठेवला नाही, मला वाटतंय लोकसभेमध्ये सुद्धा पाय ते ठेवलेच नाही. म्हणजे एवढी घृणा लोकसभेबद्दल राज्यसभेबद्दल आहे आणि त्यांनी आम्हाला डेमोक्रेसी शिकवतोय. अरे डेमोक्रेसी प्रकार तुम्ही आत येत नाही आणि जे लोक पार्लमेंटमध्ये येऊन जे गॅस सोडले, वरून उडून आले, ते कसं आले, कोण आणलं? आज मी सांगतो तुम्हाला, एक बीजेपीचा एमपी त्यांना साईन करून दिला होता आणि त्याच्यामुळं ते सगळं झालं. पण ते एक एमपीला रक्षण करण्यासाठी, त्या एक एमपीला वाचवण्यासाठी 146 एमपीजना बाहेर घातले. आपल्या लोकांना बाहेर गाऊन सगळे कानून सगळे पास करून घेतले. हे क्या लोकतंत्र आहे? हे प्रजातंत्र आहे? नाही. नाही तर तुम्हाला त्यांना लेसन शिकवावं लागतंय, धडे शिकवावं लागतंय. तुम्ही जर त्यांना धडा नाही शिकवला पुन्हा हेच करणार तो. हे आता जसं आपले राहुल गांधीजी सांगितले, इंडिया अलायन्स हे एक होऊन बीजेपीच्या विरुद्ध आम्ही फाईट करणार आहोत. आणि इंडिया अलायन्स एक झालं तर बीजेपी कुठंही तुम्हाला दिसणार नाही. अशी शक्ती या इंडिया अलायन्स मध्ये आहे. पण त्याला कसं खतम करावं, आमच्यामध्ये कसं डिवाइड करायचं ते त्यांनी सुरू केलंय. आतापासून काय काय करता मंत्र मला माहित नाही, कारण हैदराबादमध्ये एक स्पीच मी त्यांचा ऐकला, जर रेवंत रेड्डीने काहीतरी एक भाषण केला, त्यावेळेला त्यावेळेला त्यानं सांगितलं, राजस्थानमध्ये त्यांनी सांगितलं, जर तिथला गॅलोट हा जादूगार आहे तर मी चमत्कार करणारा माणूस, असं त्यांनी सांगितलं. म्हणजे त्यांनी सगळ्यांना कोणत्याही रीतीनं दाबून ठेवण्याचं काम करतोय, खोटं बोलतोय. आणि त्याच्यासारखं खोटं बोलणारा माणूस कुठेही तुम्हाला मिळणार नाही. काय केलं त्यांनी सांगितलं, तुम्हाला 2-2 कोटी नोकरी प्रतिवर्ष देतो म्हणला की नाही? मग मिळाले. कसं मिळत नाही हो? का तो प्रधानमंत्री आहे, खोटं बोलतोय? 15 लाख रुपये तुम्हाला देतो म्हणला, दिला नाही? दिला. मग का प्रधानमंत्री खोटं बोलतोय का आम्ही सांगणारे खोटं बोलतोय? आणि हेच पार्लमेंटमध्ये असं सांगतोय. आता पुन्हा एक नवीन चमत्कार करू लागलाय. आता सगळं सोडून, काम सोडून, लोकांचे कठीणाई सोडून, आमच्या किसानचे मुद्दे सोडून, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंटचे मुद्दे सोडून आता सगळं देवाकडे लागलाय. देवाकडे लागून ह्या इलेक्शन मध्ये ते सगळं एक एक करून भजन करत तुमच्याकडे येईल. तर बंधूंनो, तुम्ही त्या कशालाही बघू नका. देशासाठी, देश वाचवण्यासाठी तुम्हाला इंडियाला महत्व द्यायचं आहे. देशाला वाचवणं, संविधानाला वाचवणं, लोकतंत्राला वाचवणं हे तुमचं आधी कर्तव्य आहे. हे जर उरलं किंवा याला तुम्ही जर वाचवलं तर सगळं वाचतंय. त्यासाठी मी जास्त बोलत नाही, कारण यांच्या काळात मी जास्त सांगत नाही. आणि मीडियाच्या लोकांना सांगितलं, सर राहुल जी, इनको पाप कहने से कुछ नहीं होता. ये मीडिया के लोग जो है ना, ये काम करने वाले हैं. इनके पीछे जो है ना, उनको पकड़ना पड़ता हमको. इनके पीछे जो कॉरपोरेट कंपनीज है, ये तो पाप मजदूर है, सैलरी लेने वाले हैं. नहीं तो उन्होंने अगर रिपोर्टिंग ठीक नहीं करे तो दूसरे दिन निकाल देते हैं. तो वो डर के वो मालिक जो बोलता वही लिखते हैं. तो इसीलिए हमको यही कहना है कि यहां करके कॉरपोरेट कंपनियां, अमीर लोग जो कांग्रेस को खत्म करने के लिए मोदी को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, मोदी को फंड दे रहे हैं, उसके तरफ हमको देखना है. तो इससे मैं ज्यादा सवाल नहीं उठाता हूं. हम जो तेलंगाना में जीते, जरा हमारा हौसला बढ़ा. कर्नाटक जीते, ये सब हमने जीते. लेकिन एक 2-3 स्टेट में हमको थोड़ा धक्का लगा है. और वो धक्का लगने से आप मायूस होने की जरूरत नहीं. हिम्मत रखो, हम लड़ेंगे, किसको डरेंगे नहीं. डरने का सवाल नहीं. अरे ऐसे ब्रिटिशरों को हमने भगाया है, क्या मोदी को डरेंगे? क्या बीजेपी को डरेंगे? क्या आरएसएस को डरेंगे? अरे वो लोग तो डर के ब्रिटिश के गवर्नमेंट में काम करते थे. वो लोग डर के उनके साथ दोस्ती की है. ये डर के माफी नामा मांग लिए. तो ये लोग डरपोक है. ऐसे लोगों के खिलाफ लड़ना, आप तो बहादुर लोग हैं. और जैसा कि अभी राहुल गांधी जी ने कहा, आप तो शेर है, बब्बर है. लेकिन शेर कभी घास खाता है? नहीं. तो शेर है आप. तो इसलिए भाइयों, मैं ज्यादा चीजें आपके सामने नहीं रखना चाहता. जो चीजें पार्लियामेंट में भी घटे, और आज हमको ब्लेम करते हैं, मोदी ये ब्लेम करते हैं कि कांग्रेस वाले, अपोजिशन वाले पार्लियामेंट में नहीं आ रहे। अरे पार्लियामेंट के बाहर निकालने वाले ही आप हो, हमको बात करने के लिए नहीं देते। हमने सिर्फ इतना ही पूछा, जो दो चार लोग अंदर आ गए वो कैसा आए, क्यों आए, उसके पीछे कौन है। अगर उसके जगह आज बीजेपी के एमपी के बजाय कांग्रेस का एमपी अगर कोई होता तो हमको कलंकित करते थे, बदनाम करते थे। लेकिन ये लोग एक एमपी को बचाने के लिए 140, 147 लोगों को इन्होंने बाहर डाला। ठीक है, हम लड़ेंगे और लड़ते रहेंगे। उसके बाद में जितने काले कानून जो हमारे लोगों के खिलाफ है, वो क्रिमिनल लॉ हो या दूसरा, वो ब्रिटिशर का नाम बोल के ये कर रहे हैं। भाई आपको सपना अभी गिरा क्या? जब वाजपेयी थे 6 साल आपने हुकूमत की, क्यों नहीं उस वक्त ये कहा आपने नहीं किया? और 9 साल आप हुकूमत में, उस वक्त आपको याद नहीं आया? अब इलेक्शन आ रहे, कुछ ना कुछ करना आप करते जा रहे हो, लेकिन लोग इसको स्वीकार नहीं करेंगे। लोग याला स्वीकार करणार नाही। हे नुसतं माणूस खोटं बोलणार आहे आणि किती दिवस असं खोटं बोलेल। आणि लोक, मी ते नांदेडमध्ये एकदा सांगितलं होतं, त्यांचं तत्व काय, खोटं बोला पण रेटून बोला। असं म्हणजे बोलो, झूठ बोलो, दबा के बोलो, ये मोदी का है। और हमेशा ये वो कहते हैं, अगर कोई भी वायदा करते हैं वो वायदे का उन्होंने बार बार जिक्र करते थे, फिर थोड़े दिन के बाद वो कहते थे कि ये जो हमारी बात है वो चुनाव में बोले, ये कहते थे। इसीलिए मैं एक मुद्दा आपके सामने रख रहा हूं। आने वाले चुनाव में हमारे को इंडिया अलायंस को या कांग्रेस पार्टी को शक्ति मिला, आपने शक्ति दिया, तो हम न्याय स्कीम को इंप्लीमेंट करेंगे। हमको शक्ति मिलने के बाद गरीबों के लिए न्याय स्कीम दिलाएंगे और कम से कम 60-70 हजार रुपए हमारे महिलाओं को बराबर हम देने की व्यवस्था करेंगे और उसको आगे बढ़ाएंगे। मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूं कि अगर हम महिलाओं को सशक्त नहीं करें और उनके हाथ में पैसे नहीं गए तो अपने बच्चों को, बाल बच्चों को, बच्चों का फीस का, ये सब वो जो ठीक से महिला करती है, पुरुष भी करते हैं, जरा कम करते हैं। इसीलिए हम एक वायदा करते हैं, आने वाले चुनाव में हमारी शक्ति, आप शक्ति हमको दो, हम ये जो न्याय स्कीम है उसको हम लागू करेंगे। कौन सा स्कीम? अरे वो पैसे लेने को भी आपकी आवाज कम है। न्याय स्कीम हम जो कहे हैं वो करें, बोले तैसे चाले त्यासी बंधावे। हाँ, हम तो जो बोलना है वो बोलते हैं और करते भी है। तुम उनकी बात नहीं सुनते हो। इसीलिए मैं ज्यादा न बोलते हुए मैं इतना ही कह के मेरे बात को समाप्त करता हूं। और राहुल जी जो लंबी बात करे, हाँ, और उन्होंने जो हमको बताया उसको मैं उनको धन्यवाद देता हूं। और एक अपील करता हूं, साथियों, 139 साल पुरानी कांग्रेस पार्टी का बहुमत गौरवशाली इतिहास है। आप लोग और आपके पूर्वज तमाम ऐतिहासिक घटनाओं के साक्षी रहे हैं। इस मौके पर मैं देश भर के कांग्रेस जनों से अपील करता हूं कि वे पार्टी से जुड़े विभिन्न भाषाओं के पुराने साहित्य, फोटो, महत्वपूर्ण नेताओं के पत्र और ऐतिहासिक दस्तावेज को पार्टी के दिल्ली हेडक्वार्टर में स्कैन करके भेजे, उनको वेरीफाई करके चुनिंदा दस्तावेजों को हम कांग्रेस के आर्काइव में रखेंगे। जिनसे दस्तावेज मिलेंगे उनका नाम भी लिखेंगे, ये इतिहास के पन्नों में जाएगा। जो भी आपके पास कांग्रेस के बारे में लिखे हुए कागज है, जो महात्मा गांधी जी के हो, पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू जी के हो, वल्लभ भाई पटेल के हो, अब्दुल कलाम आजाद के हो, किसके भी हो, जैसा कि यहां पर 3 तो हमारे अधिवेशन हो गए और फैजपुर जो वहां पर भी एक नेहरू जी के नेतृत्व में फैजपुर में भी एक अधिवेशन हुआ। उस अधिवेशन में जो आंखों देखी हालात उस वक्त के जो लिखा पड़ी है, अगर किसी के पास भी है तो आप हमको भेज दीजिए, ताकि हम कांग्रेस ऑफिस में जो हमारा नया बिल्डिंग बन रहा है उसमें रखेंगे। आगे आने वाले बच्चों को एक मार्गदर्शन होगा। इतना कहते हुए मेरे बात को समाप्त करता हूं। जय हिंद। और नए साल का आप सबको मुबारक शुभकामनाएं हो। और आखिरी में यही कहूंगा कि आप एक होकर काम करेंगे और गरीबों को बचाएंगे। जय हिंद, जय हिंद, जय हिंद। ये सामने के लोग पहले बहुत पुकारते थे, अब कम हो गया। जय कांग्रेस, जय कांग्रेस, जय कांग्रेस। आप सभी को धन्यवाद और जय भीम।
खरगे साहेब, आपलं खूप खूप आभार. आता आमंत्रित करतो काँग्रेस विधिमंडळाचे नेते बाळासाहेब थोरात यांना. ते आभार प्रदर्शन करतील. बाळासाहेब थोरात.
काँग्रेस स्थापना दिनाच्या निमित्तानं नागपूर येथे होत असलेल्या आजच्या महारॅलीसाठी उपस्थित असलेले अखिल भारतीय काँग्रेस कमिटीचे अध्यक्ष आदरणीय नेते मल्लिकार्जुन खरगे साहेब, आपल्या सर्वांचे नेते आदरणीय राहुलजी, त्याचप्रमाणे आपले प्रभारी रमेशजी चेनिथालाजी, माननीय वेणुगोपालजी, सर्व उपस्थित असलेले मुख्यमंत्री महोदय, सर्व पदाधिकारी, वर्किंग कमिटीचे सर्व सदस्य, देशातून आलेले आणि राज्यातून आलेले सर्व नेते मंडळी आणि आपल्या सर्वांचे मी आभार मानतो आहे. आणि हा संदेश राहुलजींचा संदेश, आदरणीय खरगे साहेबांचा संदेश घेऊन आपण महाराष्ट्रात आणि देशात जाऊया. पुन्हा एकदा काँग्रेस दिमाखाने उभी करूया, एवढंच सांगतो. जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र.
राष्ट्रगीत होईल. राष्ट्रगीत झाल्याशिवाय कृपा करून कोणी जाऊ नये. एकसाथ सावधान. राष्ट्रगान शुरू करेंगे. जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता. पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उच्चल वंग. विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंग. तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभाशिष मागे. गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय भारत भाग्य विधाता. जय है जय है जय है जय 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 है. भारत माता की जय.
थैंक यू.
भाई महेंद्र जोशी जी, हम आपसे मिलना चाहते हैं, सेवा दल के साथी भाई महेंद्र जोशी जी.
अगोड़ा पे मिलेगा लो रेट्स ऑन फ्लाइट्स
इंटरनेशनल एंड डोमेस्टिक.
People were being robbed of their lands by the Gandhi family. I've said this in Parliament. For 600 rupees, a 30-acre piece of land taken on rent, the family builds itself a nice, lovely complex there. The idea that
They could do
at
some
the
wrong.
head of a foundation, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Vadra could mandate usurping of lands of farmers in Amethi was foreign. Can I speak for the Vice President of India? I can't. Can I speak for the Speaker of the Lok Sabha? I can't. It's not as if the opposition doesn't know it. They know it. And the opposition is hell-bent on ensuring that there's a competitive spirit about who can angle that I'm more anti-Modi than my colleague within my same party. The issue is that when you say, why did you wade into a controversy? What did you think? You'll slap me around and I'll say, Hanji, please, ek aur. Nahin. You whack me about, I'll hit back. And I'll then hit back, and I'll hit back, and I'll hit back. Till you decide not to whack me anymore. They went after a 16-year-old girl to destroy a child because they couldn't handle the attack from the mother. And I have not even digressed into it, that Mrs. Gandhi has a grandchild of her own. Who is the girl? Because that's not my politics. That is a typical Gandhi Khandan, mafioso kind of politics. But I can promise you this, because of that one thing that they did to my 16-year-old kid, I am hell-bent for the rest of my life. If Rahul Gandhi comes into Amethi, he will lose. Does not matter whether I am the BJP candidate or not. The Gandhis will never win Amethi again.
Namaste, Jai Hind. Thank you for watching or listening to the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. And thank you also for sharing with those who you think will benefit from listening or watching these conversations. My guest today is Cabinet Minister Smriti Irani, who's been called a giant slayer for having defeated Rahul Gandhi in Amethi, the family bastion, in the general election of 2019. She's been a parliamentarian since 2011 and is a fierce debater. Smriti Zubin Irani was the youngest minister in PM Modi's second ministry in 2019. She's held the portfolios of Minister of Women and Child Development since 2019 and also Minister of Minority Affairs since 2022 as the first non-Muslim to hold the position. She previously served as Minister of Human Resource Development 2014 to 2016. Minister of Textile and Minister of Information and Broadcasting 2017 to 2018. Smriti is both liked and feared by the media because she doesn't mince her words. She's a polyglot and can speak Punjabi, Bengali, Gujarati, English and Hindi. And before all her political achievements, she's had a very successful career in the Bombay film industry. Many of you will recall the iconic character of Tulsi that she played in the Ekta Kapoor serial Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi. Smriti ji, finally on my podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I think every 5 years you give me an interview.
Do I?
2014. Uske baad 2014 when you were in Amethi, I tailed you. Then 2019 I tailed you.
I think in 2014 you're a bit circumspect.
Huh.
You have seen so many politicians say so much to media about their own achievements or possibilities of achievements that I still remember that look that you gave me in Amethi, where you were like, yep, I've seen that look before of somebody who's facing abject defeat but is insisting that they will win. So I think you were being kind to somebody you think was whimsical about their political opportunities.
Okay, that was a lot of analysis you did with that pehla look. So my first impression at that time, though I'd seen you before in
Thankfully, you didn't have the bechari marne wali hai look. Because there were many people who were of that opinion. And many who had, in fact, they have this whole demeanor as though आपकी कोई शहादत होने वाली है या आपका कोई जनाजा उठने वाला है. So mercifully you didn't have that.
No. my first reaction was that not of what people were saying, that sacrificial lamb. My thing was, oh my God, she's here for a long term. Because when when the suitcases were coming on the conveyor belt, I was standing next to you, and your suitcase came and before mine. So I offered to help, and you said no, I will pick up my own case. So I thought, okay, refreshing. She doesn't have, a legion of
litany of
people.
people.
Yeah, helping you with the suitcase.
I never did.
You didn't.
I
Yeah.
didn't have it in my media career. I didn't fancy it in politics. I think that it's one, if you need to be managed, then how will you manage the aspirations or the challenges of others? So I have been a lone wolf would be too much, but yeah.
Even in 2019, when I came to that pokey little flat you had above those shops at the bottom, and then you had that, and it was so ordinary, if I may. I'm not trying to be say that you didn't have a luxurious apartment, or you didn't even have a well-appointed apartment. It was
We
just
in
total.
2014 got a space, and remember at that time Sonia Gandhi was UPA president, and Akhilesh had the reins in Uttar Pradesh along with Mulayam Singh ji, and nobody was even willing to offer us any space.
No,
to
2019
live
I'm
in.
talking
Yes,
about.
that's right. 2019 was a leg up. In 2014, we got 3-4 rooms above a cement godown. We had no wherewithals, we had no furniture, nothing. So there was a group of women, all of us stacked up in that little godown, so-called apartment. And I remember most of us, when we came back, we call it home, when we used to come back after our campaign, it was a 20-22 long day campaign. And there was some of us who would wake up the next day, I mean, I still have a mark where some insect would bite us, or you would fall sick, suddenly come up with a fever because you got some infection.
Yeah.
There was not a thing available, not a single hotel there, which is extraordinary for a place which has had 40 years of a Gandhi rule. And no hotel, no guest house, no rest house, no sarkari guest house, where, even the DM could functionally possibly work out of. There was no collector's office. There was no fire station there. No hospital had a CT scan machine. In fact, the first X-ray machine that came into a district hospital came after we intervened. We had no dialysis center. We have no police line there. So there were many firsts in Amethi.
Yeah.
So where I would live was the least of the problems. 2019 was a leg up because by then there was also a sense of fear in 2014. कि भाई आप तो लड़के चले जाओगे, उसके बाद हमारे पीछे लोग पड़ेंगे कि हाउ डे यू सपोर्ट द बीजेपी. तो खौफ का माहौल वहाँ पर 2014 में था, which आपने भी देखा, you were witness to it.
Yeah.
So for us to be so belligerent कि हम लड़ने आए हैं और we are here to stay, people took it with a pinch of salt. 19 was a bit different because by then I had spent 5 years there, and I had already told people that there's no guarantee who the BJP candidate will be in 19 because that's a parliamentary board decision. But by then people साहस मिला लोगों को कि ठीक है दीदी, मेरे घर के ऊपर वाला जो घर है या मेरे गोडाउन के ऊपर वाला जो 2-3 कमरा है वो आपको किराए पे हम दे सकते हैं. तो 19 में सीमेंट के गोडाउन से हटकर हम किसी दुकान के ऊपर वाले जो 2-3 कमरे हैं वहाँ पे रहने की हमारी
fumes. I was like, how are you living here?
But that is a life that people in Amethi were leading. Why should mine be any different?
Yeah.
I think that for many journalists, it was a shocker.
Yeah.
Because the presumption in Lutyens, or for that matter, journalists around the world, there were some who came from far and wide, was that, अरे यहाँ पे तो गांधी खानदान इतने साल रहा है, तो यहाँ पे तो मतलब 5-star accommodations होंगे, facilities होंगे. I remember one news channel which did an interview of mine in the middle of a ramshackle home in 19. The editor said कि घर मिट्टी का है लेकिन टॉयलेट मोदी ने बाहर पक्का बना दिया है. So that contrast was more than visible for people.
I've covered elections in Amethi for several years. Every time I would go, Lucknow se niklo. And I've said this before on shows and things, that there wasn't a single place you could stop for a loo break.
Yep.
From women
It is very
journalists,
difficult for people to.
they don't understand it, and nobody used reporting it, mind you. I've written it, I've reported it also. Women reporters who got out from Lucknow to go to Amethi would have to come back
To Lucknow.
to Lucknow, right? So
And you have to contextualize for people that Amethi is 1.5 hours away from Lucknow.
Yeah.
So you would have to come all the way there, operate the whole day, and then go back.
Yeah. So you shoot before sun goes down, you shoot. And for a television journalist, that was important.
Because
and
there
more
would be no
importantly,
electricity.
No
so
electricity.
there are pictures of me standing atop a gadi. And people with their torches out and some candles out and me addressing a crowd. So somebody called me and said, really?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think they don't have electricity? I said, they genuinely don't.
Don't. And for women, because there are no loo stops and there's no loo in Amethi also, there was nothing. You couldn't go just anywhere. So you basically don't eat breakfast, unlike the other male journos who would tank up on their breakfast and their coffees. And we can't, right? Because you don't know.
I think what is significant is that everybody knew, nobody wrote about it.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So when you're saying that foreign journalists came, foreign journalists were not writing that. Like, for example, when I went, I don't remember which election it was, they would keep saying, yeah, 4 kasturba bane, 2 kasturba bane. I said, what is kasturba bane hai? What are kasturbas? Those were women's hostels. So there was a women's hostel, the kasturba, in the middle of marshy land.
It would be inhabitable.
Yes, exactly.
It would have no furniture where you could possibly operate.
Nothing.
From,
There was nobody
study
inside it.
from, or if it's a hostel to sleep in.
No.
Nothing.
And then this was in a marshy land. So, pehli baat to you can't access it because of the marsh. And women staying there. It was a women's hostel. Udhar se nikal ke, wo Kasturba se agar hostel hai, wo nikal ke, how will she go to her campus or college?
It took me a while to tell people that genuinely believe me that people were being robbed of their lands by the Gandhi family. The idea that
they could do
at
some
the
wrong.
head of a foundation, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Vadra could mandate usurping of lands of farmers in Amethi was foreign. Because people say, "Arey, itna paisa hai, kya karenge ye wali zameen leke?" But they took land in the name of industrialization. There was land in one area which was for minority girl students. They took over that land to open their own office. Girls who went against the family and did dharna against them were imprisoned. Young school girls from the minority community. So the whole concept that was sold about the Gandhi family was that they're benevolent, was that they're so cultured they could possibly never loot, was that they're so erudite, that they're so well read, that how could they possibly have a disconnect with the needs of the people and not serve it. I think that my Amethi journey contrasted that, and suddenly a lot of people found voice. Journalists, yes, were compelled to then convey that voice. But those voices existed. They never had an outlet. So people were, there's one Samrat Cycle Zameen, which is something that I've brought up many a times in Parliament. In the 80s, that land was procured from farmers. They were given the hope ki idhar factory lagayenge. Some bicycle manufacturer was called and then told ki aap isme factory lagao. Like clockwork, the guy declares bankruptcy, ki hum nahi chala sakte. And like clockwork, a foundation which is not supposed to do any commercial activity takes over the land. So when I go to Amethi, the first question I ask is the foundation can never do commercial activity. How is a land which is deemed for commercial purposes taken up by the foundation? It's been under lock and key. I was told, "Arey, yahan aise hi hota tha." And I found many such parcels of land belonging to people. For instance, there is a promise given 30-40 years ago कि भाई हम यहाँ पे अस्पताल बना देंगे, परिवार को ज़मीन दे दो. Parivar means the Gandhi family. They take the zameen. Munshiganj guest house is there. They never build the medical college. So when Prime Minister Modi starts his endeavor of building medical colleges across all districts, I go and I request, ki, can we get one for Amethi? You look at the records. That land was taken for $600.
Huh?
Yes, I've said this in Parliament. For 600 rupees, a 30-acre piece of land taken on rent, the family builds itself a nice, lovely complex there, but never builds the medical college for which they took the land.
Interesting.
My issue is, how much is too much? I mean, you took over so much property in Delhi, in Bombay. अमेठी के गरीब लोगों को तो छोड़ देते हैं.
I'm going to come back to Amethi. But first, let's do the biggest stories of the day because I have you here today.
Which stories are those?
So, several of them. Firstly, just an hour before we are shooting this, it's just come out that Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge is probably the Prime Minister candidate for the India Alliance.
Are you sure?
I believe Mamata Banerjee and Arvind Kejriwal proposed the name, and Kharge ji is saying कि पहले election जीतना हमारा goal है, उसके बाद Prime Minister का देखेंगे. But apparently that seems to be a consensus. Nobody objected to it.
So you have not said that Mrs. Gandhi has said, my son hereby abdicates the throne. My daughter will never be in the race for Prime Minister. Here is Mr. Kharge, and now forever shall he reign as president, and forever shall a non-Gandhi always be a PM aspirant. Has that happened yet?
Well, not exactly.
Then take it with a pinch of salt.
No, but they did nominate
Who's the they?
the Gandhi family. They had Narasimha Rao.
Was Narasimha Rao
Manmohan
happy nomination or a political majburi?
Well, whatever the...
Or Manmohan Singh ji for that matter. Look back at history, were any of them.
तो ये भी तो मजबूरी होगी ना जो खरगे जी को कर रहे हैं.
I cannot say anything till an official announcement is made. But what is interesting for you and for what you've highlighted is that the name did not come as a proposal from Mrs. Gandhi. It came from parties which are not Congress party members, or for that matter, Congress party leadership. It came from outside.
Maybe that was deliberate.
Maybe, but till such time you do not have Mrs. Gandhi say, my son, like I said, hereby abdicates the throne. My daughter, my son-in-law, my grandchildren have no claim to the throne. Please take it with a pinch of salt.
But उन्होंने तो कभी कहा ही नहीं ना कि हम प्रधानमंत्री बनना चाहते हैं.
I think that you've had enough discussions in the studio which also alludes to how they ran governments. I mean, the 10 years of UPA was more than sufficient to certify.
So there's no question of abdication. There's nothing about...
But the difference is right now you have two people who are in the race already.
Who are the two people? For
Brother
India Alliance?
and the sister. No. I'm saying that... So what is interesting for me is that if you're saying that we are breaking away from the tradition of dynasty, have you had that declaration by Sonia Gandhi yet? You haven't had it.
But maybe she doesn't need to.
I think in contrast, you have had Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, who was literally on the floor of the house, accepted that it's impossible to defeat Prime Minister Modi. So with certain defeat before them, is that why there's a discussion on Kharge ji's name? And Kharge ji, being the astute politician that he is, has said, नहीं abhi nahi, जीतने के बाद देखा जाएगा.
But also, in the journal circles, it's become very interesting. कि,
don't believe anything in the journal circles. Most of them are disconnected from realities.
But regarding the BJP,
possibly they are selling some new fancy idea that they fancy is, the short strategy.
नहीं ना. Journalists these days have no clue, especially regarding your party. एक नाम नहीं पक्का हुआ था कि कौन.
मुझे लगता है दिल्ली शहर के बारे में कुछ खुशफहमियां लोगों का है. मैं इस शहर में पली बड़ी हूँ. एक खुशफहमी है कि पूरी की पूरी दिल्ली ए पॉलिटिकल है. पॉलिटिकल दिल्ली दिमाग वालों की है, सामान्य दिल्ली दिल वालों की है. और दिमाग वाली इस दिल्ली में जो राजनीति से भरी हुई है, वहाँ पे 4 चीज़ों को मैंने देखा है लाइफ में, मेरे 10 साल के अनुभव में एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर. और मैं तीसरा टर्म है मेरा एज एन MP. मैं 2 बार राज्यसभा की सांसद रह चुकी हूँ. आपके पास आपकी पीठ पे छुरा भोंकने का भी दुश्मन नहीं आता, दोस्त आता है. यहाँ पे रिश्ते बनते हैं जब चाय पिलाई जाती है, मीठी मीठी बातें होती हैं, रिश्तों की दुहाई दी जाती है, दोस्तियाँ होती हैं. लेकिन उस पूरे चक्रव्यूह में सपोजिशंस बहुत रहती हैं. तो कल लग गया तो लग गया. तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि उस दिल्ली में अगर मोदी मंत्र, अगर एंगेजमेंट का और कम्युनिकेशन का आप देखें तो बुरा नहीं है. बिकॉज इन दीज हैलोड हॉल्स ऑफ पावर many careers came to die because they did not understand the complexity of this Dimag wali Delhi. And I think what Prime Minister is doing now, and because he has seen Delhi up close, not only as an administrator, not only as a chief minister, he's also seen it as somebody who built the organization. He realized the pitfalls of it. And that is why when I see a lot of grassroots leaders find a voice, new faces find a voice, it is of great, I think, comfort to कार्यकर्तास. ठीक है, नाम चला रहे हैं तो इसका मतलब जर्नलिस्ट को कुछ पता नहीं.
हाँ. That's also true that it took a while, I think, for Delhi journos to figure out that they are inconsequential to the system.
No, I don't think that they are inconsequential in terms of communication to the rest of the country. On issues of domestic and international import, the media does play a very significant role. But many people within the media do not limit themselves to reportage. They become power brokers. And I think that is what Prime Minister Modi has broken. It's not only the power brokers in the media, but brokers of all kind have been shoved out of the system because the people of our country deserved better.
Let me come to the other news story which happened, which is of the suspension. I think 141, the last score that I heard, 142. MP suspended. Now, your party is being accused by the opposition of being dictatorial. Harsimrat Badal even said that
my party cannot suspend anybody. Well, it's the Speaker of the House and the Vice President of India who can.
But it's being said that you built...
So it makes for great headlines that BJP is dictatorial, but anybody who understands parliamentary procedure knows there's not BJP that announces people are suspended.
The successful running of the House, both of houses, is the job of the ruling party.
Agreed.
And that has not been happening. And it's...
Because I think that the opposition, and this is my personal feeling, the opposition is hell-bent on ensuring that there's a competitive spirit about who can angle that I'm more anti-Modi than my colleague within my same party. So today, when the Vice President of India, the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, announces that these are the procedures which cannot be violated as a parliamentarian, after knowing those procedures, you still go ahead and violate it. That means you're being mindful of the rules that you're breaking. You're also mindful of the consequences that will occur. Now, this is not a classroom. This is the Parliament of India. There is a historical context to every activity that is undertaken in Parliament. There is a precedent that you set, not only from a domestic perspective, but also an international parliamentary perspective of how business in a house is conducted. We are a part of many such international unions or associations or organizations that study the functionality of our parliament. Can you have the Vice President of India or the Speaker of the House announce a set of rules and regulations and procedures in terms of your parliamentary engagement and willfully have parliamentarians break those rules and then expect no consequence for it from the Speaker of the House? Because there's a precedent that you're setting.
But these were the norms which were anyway
opinion.
happening, right? Getting into the well of the house, placards. It's been there for decades.
So if you say that I want to ensure that there is dysfunctionality because I'm going to be anarchist and people before me in parliaments before me were allowed it and hence I shall also break the rule. The question is how long, how much and how far? So it is not only the responsibility but also the right of the Chairman of the Rajya Sabha and the Speaker. What shocks me is not the juvenile reaction of the former Congress President. The fact that
which one are you referring to?
There is one who is of substance from an Amethi perspective, which is Rahul Gandhi. I could never imagine the depths of depravity when you not only urge a fellow parliamentarian to mock the Vice President of India, because it's not an individual, it's an institution.
Kalyan Banerjee is mocking, mimicking.
And that is supposed to be a very erudite, legal. On the steps of the parliament, you mock the Vice President of India, you think it's funny. And Mr. Rahul Gandhi films it, encourages it. Now, there is a decorum which is expected of us as parliamentarians. I've had issues on which I have not, in the 10 years of the UPA, I had served a few years in the opposition. But never in my life had I, as a parliamentarian, mocked the chair, mocked the speaker, or use words that brought disrepute to the chair. Because that, like I said, is not an individual, that's an institution. So I always thought that maybe this is the end of juvenile politics by Mr. Gandhi. But to willfully stand there and encourage disrespect towards the Vice President of India, now that's a new low that he has hit. Kalyan Banerjee included, but every parliamentarian who stood there and laughed and encouraged Kalyan Banerjee to humiliate the Vice President's office is equally culpable.
And there's
So
been
in
no
the
apology
House,
as yet.
in the House, can you expect them to do better? This is the same set of people. Mr. Venugopal was standing there and laughing. For what?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not an individual. That's an institution. And then can you expect better when they're in the House? They pay no heed.
So, what is worrying though is that what happened outside is, of course, that a constitutional post was mocked. That
Can you
is
deny
bad.
that constitutional post the right then to deliver justice?
And then there is this which happened, which is more suspension.
They
It seems
stood
like
on
everything is
they stood on the table and threw a book at the chair. If you remember,
This is not this
Harivansh ji,
incident. Yeah.
yes, the deputy chairperson, they were slamming books on the table. They were chucking papers at the chair.
This is the earlier parliament building.
Yes, but it's the same opposition.
Yeah.
Same members who are playing truant.
So Harsimrat Badal says that this new parliament building is a graveyard of democracy because
It may be a graveyard for those who consider themselves opposition. But why should it be a graveyard of democracy? Who uses those words? It's not as if the BJP always had a winning streak. We were on the losing side as well. But did we as political activists ever demean our institutions? You can question process, procedures and ask. But can you say that the parliament is not to be given due respect only because you're not in power?
So they keep bringing up Mr. Arun Jaitley and Ms. Sushma Swaraj's statement saying these kind of protests are part of democracy where you can protest in
Is
parliament.
throwing a paper at the chair. Has Sushma Swaraj, Arun Jaitley ever thrown a crumpled up, balled up piece of paper at the chair? No. Have Arun Jaitley, Sushma Swaraj ever banged books on the table of the Rajya Sabha? No. Have Arun Jaitley or Sushma Swaraj ever mocked the Vice President of India on the steps of Parliament? No. Have Arun Jaitley or Sushma Swaraj used language within Parliament which brings disrepute to parliamentary procedures as such? No.
Do you think this was done deliberately
Of course
to
it was.
invite suspension? Because
Yes.
that seems to have united.
But that's more than obvious.
Okay.
You know the rules. You know the consequence of breaking it. If I broke a rule today, do you think that the Speaker or the Vice President of India will have any mercy for me? Not at all. Because they cannot show a precedence where I can, let's say, break a law or a procedure and then not invite the wrath of the chair.
But this has united the India Alliance where they were...
Can you imagine breaking the law unites them?
Point.
Bringing disrepute to Parliament unites them. Mocking the Vice President of India unites them. The last time there was an election for the President's office to humiliate the President of India, that united them.
Okay. The comment that was made.
Yes,
from
they were
Adhyaksh.
united in their attempt to humiliate the President of India. So what you're telling me is that they come together only when they have to demean Indian institutions. Otherwise, they never come together.
Were you in Parliament when those two people jumped into the...
I was in the foyer, yes.
You
And
were
I
in the
walked in immediately after the House was called to order.
Why is there no... I mean, I'll get into the other issues, but why is there no drill conducted to
I
exit
can't
from...
because there is a investigation already underway.
No,
And
I mean drill
Parliament right
conducted
now
to
is-
exit from the when such kind of an attack happened. We saw people just sauntering around, hands in the pocket, shuffling. When there is an attack, it's quite clear, and everybody's wits should be have been there, and they should have evacuated. They should have left from the exits, but they were just hanging around.
I think, like I said, the procedures which are now to govern conduct in such circumstances is something which is under the aegis of the Speaker of
So you haven't had those kind
office.
of drills
My issue
before?
was that when we went back immediately, people like me, Prahladji, all of us, at 2 o'clock, we reassembled. It was essential at that time to show democracy at work. It was essential at that time show that there is no fear, that whatever has happened in the chamber does not desist us to come back to that very hallowed hall and gather again so that business can be conducted by the Speaker. The Speaker expects of all of us that we contribute and support him. If I today, in this interview, start questioning processes, procedures while Parliament in session, while investigation is ongoing, while the Speaker himself has said no matter what your political organization, everybody needs to contribute so that systems can be bettered, I would digress from my responsibility then. My responsibility as a parliamentarian and as a minister was, it does not matter where I am, how I am, what my concerns are personally. I need to be in that house when the bell rings and we assemble again, so that when citizens of the world see the Indian Parliament, they don't see empty benches, they see resolute parliamentarians irrespective of their politics standing there.
So is it so difficult or is it so wrong for the opposition to demand that the Prime Minister or the Home Minister come and give a statement? Why not?
I think that the Speaker has already spoken on this issue. He's also invited dialogue on the issue. The challenge that the opposition is afflicted with is that those institutions, processes that do not converge under the Prime Minister's office but actually are the hallmarked intervention of the Speaker, they want the Prime Minister to speak for the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Constitutionally, can the Prime Minister speak for the Speaker's chair, which is over and above all
Home
politics,
Minister can't.
which is over and above even parliamentary security, is under the aegis of the Speaker.
But the Delhi police
Can
does
they
come.
speak on the Speaker's behalf? They can't. The Speaker can, but you deny the Speaker the right to conduct deliberations and dialogues.
Okay. So
Can I speak for the President of India? I can't. Can I speak for the Vice President of India? I can't. Can I speak for the Speaker of the Lok Sabha? I can't. It's not as if the opposition doesn't know it. They know it. So I think that when your opposition is reduced to just headline hunting, and when you want to ensure that there is this cantankerous intervention of always creating some kind of friction or conflict, then you're not serving the purpose of finding a solution or serving the purpose of wanting a dialogue.
it's just for disruption.
The major aim is that how do I target Modi?
You really think it was for Modi?
It is. Because like I said, the Speaker of the House is over and above all politics. It is under his authority. He has the authority and he has fulfilled his responsibility of speaking on the issue, inviting dialogue. You deny him that right by insisting that the Prime Minister speaks.
Okay. You know, I'll rewind a bit for a couple of days before all this happened, which was that where you said that about the menstrual cycle leave.
Yes.
That whole thing, it was so interesting because you said, and I'm going to quote, you said menstrual cycles are not a handicap. And I was like, yeah, yes. Because I got into the workforce.
I could have said much more.
You could.
I didn't. Because the gentleman who asked the question never intended to find a solution for women.
So it was Professor Manoj Kumar Jha. And he says, will the Minister of Women and
Just
Child
allow
Development
me
be
to
pleased
just
to
look at this.
state?
Can you look at part C of the question?
Yeah, whether the policy contains provisions to promote and provide for menstrual hygiene among LGBTQIA community.
Now tell me, the LGBTQIA community that the honourable member wanted a response for, which gay man without a uterus has a menstrual cycle? So the question was intended either to shock or to provoke or to attract attention, which it did attract attention. It did shock many people. It did provoke a controversy. But the question in itself indicates to you what the intent is.
But you also said as a woman who's menstruating.
Yes, but like I said, if I talk now outside Parliament and I have to reflect on it as a female professional, the LGBTQIA plus, he wants me, Manoj Jha wants me to provide an answer about how can I provide for their menstrual hygiene.
For gay men.
Which, for gay men, is it applicable? The second issue is, he says in his communication that Bihar has a policy of menstrual leave.
Which is not here visible.
He said this on the floor of the House.
But didn't mention it in.
Yeah. So if you look at this question alone, allow me to go back to it. If you go back to this question alone,
whether the government is planning to roll out.
There is a policy which is, if you look at my answer, it talks about a policy which is available on a website. The issue is, in his verbal intervention, he says Bihar has a policy. He insinuates as though Bihar is an overarching policy which is applicable to the private sector. His question to me is,
Bihar doesn't
have a private sector policy. The chair can pull him up for lying or insinuating.
Misrepresenting. Okay.
Yep. But what measures are in place to make compulsory for employers to grant leave? So Bihar may have in 1992 a policy for paid leave for women in government. Does not have it in the private sector. I've never had, and in my experience, I'm not the health minister. What did I say that day? I said, one, it is not an handicapped position that women have. Somebody said, आपने handicap क्यों बोला? I said, आप अंग्रेजी की कोई डिक्शनरी उठा के देख लीजिए, उसका दूसरा सिनोनिम impediment है. तो मैंने वो दोनों शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया, मैंने डिसेबिलिटी नहीं बोला इसको. फिर उन्होंने कहा, आपको पता नहीं है कि पेन होता है. अच्छा, interestingly, it's all men. Somebody, in fact, you tweeted about it. Some gentleman wanted to take out my uterus because I had such a position.
He said, actually,
I take umbrage on it for 3 reasons. One, the whole movement of feminism was so that women can have their opinion voiced themselves, no matter what the consequence. So for somebody to say, I'm a feminist man, and because you have an opinion which is different from mine, your uterus should be taken out, is an oxymoron unto itself.
Yeah, God help his family and those who are working in his organization.
The fact that he can do it with impunity with somebody on a constitutional post means there is much more that he could possibly do with people around him, working with him or within his family. That itself is a frightening proposition for those women. But what is the issue at hand? I have unionized in media as a professional many issues, as a writer, as a producer, as an allied worker for people who work behind the screen. And our intent for 25 years has been, as members of a union then, that we don't want to create new challenges for women where they get harassed. Or for that matter, where they are getting discriminated against. So imagine when a parliamentarian tells me that mandate a national policy, and I tell them that मैं वो मंत्री नहीं हूँ, वो health minister है. लेकिन when you say that mandate leave across all segments, what does it do? For you to mandate and make it lawfully implemented, people have to report implementation. Now imagine a scenario in a private sector, okay, where if somebody has to implement it, your HR guy has to know, your accounts guy has to know. Why should a woman's menstrual cycle be known to an employer? Imagine if it's a single woman who chooses not to take those leaves that are so-called proposed to be granted. Can you imagine the harassment that woman will have to face? Third,
especially on the work floor, right?
Can you imagine?
3 days
we are
not
saying
being
more
there.
and more women have to come and join the workforce, especially on factory floors, corporate houses. Imagine a floor with 20,000 women. So we are creating new barriers for discrimination. What this gentleman, when he asked me the question, never told anybody. In fact, what never came out in any critique was that under the Occupational Safety and Health Standards rules of 2020, medical leave is already provided for.
Yeah.
What nobody spoke about is that if you forget Indian institutions, if you look at research which is coming from, let's say, a Mayo Clinic, what do they say? 80 to 85% women face it in their life cycle.
Yeah.
If it persists beyond the age of 25, you need a checkup, you need a pap check, you need a pelvic examination.
Which is a medical issue then.
It's a medical issue. It is shocking that it's less in married women, more in young girls.
Yeah.
So the issue is you're creating newer layers for women to be humiliated. You're creating new layers for discrimination. You're creating more reasons for them to say, Arey, pehle we used to deny them because they're getting married. Then they are being denied because they're having babies. Now you're giving them a monthly reason to deny them equal opportunity. So when I spoke in Parliament, I spoke from my personal experience because I don't want more and more women harassed. But the question is it not provided for in the law? It is a part of law already.
Yeah.
It is only under the context of medical leave, which is true because if you look at the challenge with regards to severe pain, that is an indication of a hormone or chemical imbalance or a genetic inclination to it, which means you need a doctor immediately. You can't self-medicate. Especially if it is above the age of 25.
It became political because you had K. Kavita saying, as a woman, it is appalling.
I don't expect her to be socially or politically mature. What I'm shocked at is the number of men who had an opinion about an experience as a working professional that I had had. I was very clear on the floor of the House. This is my personal experience.
But there's a woman too. I mean, you're saying man, but she's a woman politician and she
Like I
says
said, I don't expect social or political maturity from her. I have deducted in my experience of working with her as an opposition member, most of them fancy the headline. They don't fancy the content that provides a solution. Even the gentleman who asked the question, why would you ask me a question about providing menstrual hygiene for gay men? The intent was never to provide a solution or to start a conversation.
And then there was that...
He's asking me in part 1 of his supplementary about the plastic composition of manufacturing of sanitary pads. You would presume, and this is records available, that Mr. Jha knows that I'm not manufacturing pads. So the intent was to create a headline, possibly get featured in one of those brute videos.
Which happened.
And it's easier to do when the person who's responding is as blunt as I am.
And it's like, well...
Nobody saw that part C. Nobody
did.
saw part C of the question.
But I saw a number of things in Instagram.
Like I said,
It
if you
went
ask me
viral.
about the German Sanskrit, if you ask me about every controversy, I have such interesting insights that you'd be shocked out of your wits.
German what?
When I was HRD, the whole German Sanskrit debate that I am
yeah.
the unpad.
So what happened with that whole controversy about German and Sanskrit that we should
No,
learn?
I'll give you a Kapil Sibal headline. He's the one who signed it. That German is the third language of India.
When you said that it should French and
said
German
it should
should
be
be replaced and
I
and
said
Sanskrit, treat them on par.
No, I said teach it as a foreign language. That's it. Which is not wrong.
Yeah.
But it became Sriti Unpad. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
You speak Deutsch.
So do not jhado German on me now. English, Hindi, Punjabi, Gujarati, Bengali. Have I covered all the languages?
Maybe.
Punjabi.
Yes,
also.
Marathi.
How? This is another aspect of you only. And now you're jadoing German on me.
I'm lucky to have roots and family members from various parts of the country.
But so what? Many of us have. That doesn't mean ki sab languages hi seekh liya.
I think when you're learning languages early because you have a multilingual family, it's comparatively easy. And then you kind of...
So mother Bengali.
Mother's a Bengali. Her mother was from Dhubri, Assam. My Nana was from the Bangladesh border. My Nani was from undivided Bengal.
So that's how you know Bengali.
Came to Dhubri. Then Nani covered. Dada was from undivided Punjab. Came from there to this Janakpuri refugee camp. Then went onwards to Muradabad.
So that's why Malhotra is your surname.
And yes, and Dadi was a Maharashtrian. Married to a Parsi. So
Oh, so Dadi was a Maharashtrian. So Dadi spoke to you in Marathi?
no, Dadi passed long before I was born.
Oh, okay.
But father knew it, never spoke it. But when I went to Mumbai,
So what was the language at home when you were growing up then?
my mum would speak to me in Bengali. My dad would insist on speaking in Punjabi. Every time my nani and my masis and my mother wouldn't want me to know what is happening, they would speak in Telugu.
Why Telugu?
Because
How? Telugu.
my Nana had served in the Navy, so they were stationed in Vizag. So I think it's a genetic thing. So the minute they would speak in Telugu, I would know something's up.
Correct.
My mother can speak, apart from these languages, she can speak Telugu, she can speak Malayalam.
Wow.
So I'm from a multilingual family. So the
Multilingual.
minute they switch the language, I know something's
So
up.
how come Marathi and Gujarati?
My husband is a Parsi.
Ah.
And I was, like I said, unionizing in Maharashtra. So that's the language of the
But
unions.
how many years did you stay there? 10 years maybe? 8
I
or 10?
went there when I was
8.
17.
Wow.
I'm 47 now.
Okay. But you left, right? I mean, what, 2000 to 2008 was Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi.
I left in 1995, 6. And oscillated between Delhi, Mumbai.
Okay, let's get to that part. I mean, politics to karte rahenge, baat karte rahenge. Let's get to that part of your life. How and when and why did you go to Bombay? And
I just wanted to be somebody on my own merit. I was very irritated with this whole Delhi nuisance that I had around me, which said anything you do was credited to daddy. That kind of got my goat. So wherever this ANI building is, I studied in a school right opposite, which was in a... so we had a lot of friction in the family because my parents were from different political ideologies. What can politics do to a family? I've witnessed it firsthand. My dad is or was a congressman. I don't know which category because there are times when he gets irritated with me
I
when
love
say
that
something.
picture where you took him to meet
The Prime
Modi ji
Minister.
and you said it's like parent-teacher
So my
meeting.
dad had this whole thing. He spent his whole life, I think he left active contribution to politics when Rajiv Gandhi died.
Okay.
I've seen him literally weep.
88.
I've seen him literally weep. And I was like, 76 born. So I'm like 12 years old. To see a grown man weep for his leader, I've seen that. My mother's a Sanghi. My Nana was from Valmyatsi Kalyan Ashram. So the Sector 6 Vishwa Hindu Parishad office that you have near the ANI office, that's where I used to go for Shakha with my Nana.
Okay.
My mother was in Jansang. So my Nana was posted in Mumbai, in the Navy colony there. Mazgaon docks he was placed in. My mother used to
I was born
work
there.
in... So my mother used to do Janasangha work in Ghatkopar area.
Okay.
The only grudge that side of the family had was that we were always Swayamsevaks. We never became politicians. Why would you become a politician? The grudge on the dad side of the family was, if you had to become a politician, why did you become a politician in the BJP? So
It's okay. Family can never be made.
we have seen explosive conversations.
But this was before you entered politics. There was explosive conversations or afterwards?
No, I've seen it before because they fought on
Mom and
issues
dad.
like emergency, 84 riots. Right next to your office is the Gurdwara.
Yes.
I remember when I was asking for the address, I said, are you next to the
Next to
Gurdwara?
the-
And you were a bit
yeah.
shocked. How do I know?
How do you know? Yeah.
That's because I used to walk to school from Malai
Holy
Mandir
Acha, okay.
to this...
Basant Vihar to...
Malai Mandir to this, I think it's a good 2
Yeah,
kilometers. So
aram
every day
se.
I would go up and down. And the land on which Tent Wala school was built was basically an effort by 2-3 Swayamsevaks. They wanted to kind of do something in education. Opposite that land, and this school was up to standard 5. Opposite that land was this big missionary school, imposing building. And every day I would stand outside and I would look at it and I say, is school mein kaise jate hain?
Oh.
Because that had 6 to 12.
Huh.
My mother told me we can't afford it because my parents had separated by then. And she said, we can't afford this. So I used to go and stand outside the school gate till one day one of the sisters came and said, this kid turns up every day after her school. So they would say, what are you doing here? And I was like, how do you get into this school? So they said, we have an exam. If you pass that exam, then we will consider it. So when I went back home, I told my mom, I said, if I pass that exam, I can get in. She said, even if you pass the exam, we can't afford it. Then at that time, my mother was working at Taj Mansingh as a housekeeper. And the head of housekeeping department was Juhi Chawla's mother. Okay. So the big news was that Miss India ho gayi hai, Mrs. Chawla ki beti. And I was like, listen, I don't want Miss India. I want to go to that school. So at that time, the Tatas had a project that if you can get 60% and above, they would pay for the employee's child. So my mom said, if you can manage this, I will pay this school fees up to a certain limit. And then, we'll go and ask for a scholarship. So I passed that exam. I went back to her. I said, let's go find some money. And this is me in the 5th standard.
Which year was this?
5th standard. I don't know what age, but I remember the standard.
The reason
I'm like
asking
getting
is-
in 6th standard. I'm like, I wanted to come here.
It's quite strange. The reason I'm asking is I taught dance in that same school.
Please don't tell me you're my dance teacher.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
I taught Bharatnatyam in that school.
Please don't tell me.
Yes.
that. Which
in the
one?
same school. Here, Holy Child Auxilium.
I can't say what I want. Are you kidding me?
Yes, in that same school, I was in college, and my dance teacher.
They'll call you Godi Media after that.
So I
was more of a sports person there.
so I
I was actually a sports person everywhere. But I sang in the choir.
okay.
I still remember when the Pope visited. I was a part of the choir which sang for the Pope. So that was a big achievement for the school.
Yeah, correct. It was the same time. I was in JMC at that time, and I was to be part
you
of that.
You are a dance teacher.
Yes.
Oh my God, that just ruined your career,
So I was in college, so this was extra money. So it was like great. I just had to come once a week.
For us, it was consistent performance. And I would be too lazy. I would just get that passing mark which could help get the scholarship. And I remember one day I got whacked by my mother for possibly in one of the unit tests they used to have. I did very badly in math. I got a whacking of my life. She said, you're deliberately doing this and you're being dumb. And then there was this Olympiad exams, NTSC exams they used to do. So I was so irritated. I sat for one of them, got the silver medal, and I said, I'll be done with it now. So I'm not dumb, it's just that I'm disinterested.
So tell me, you went through such a jaddojahed to get into school. Why didn't you pursue with academics?
Didn't
Why
have
did
money.
you Okay.
Didn't have money. My parents, God bless them, my dad, first 7 years of my life, when I was born, it was an inter-caste, inter-region marriage. They fell in love. And that too, when emergency was on the anvil. So they get married in 75 in the middle of all that chaos. I'm born in 76. When I'm born, they have $150 between the two of them and 2 patilas, pital wale. Because that's all that they could muster between the two of them. One of their friends, my father, took us Munirka mein. He had a tabela. So he said, the best I can do is give you a room above the tabela. That's why I'm not very bothered when I went to a meeting because I haven't been there, done that. Once they got that, my mom, this very elegant, erudite, well-read, graduate, masters in many language, says that, Ajay, we can't stay here above a tabela with a girl the rest of our lives. So in the middle of his political activities at that time, and for a Sanghi and a Congress guy to get married at that, I mean, I don't know how they survived.
A volatile period.
Very. And they're very opinionated, even to this day. So for them, then they moved to a place called Gurgaon now. Not the fancy Gurgaon that you see, but the Gurgaon, which new colony, which sets you back to the Stone Ages. So she would try and teach people, sell door-to-door handmade masalas. He would put a chaddar on the floor opposite Army Club in Dholakwa because that's where the bus adda was for people to go to Gurgaon from Delhi.
Correct, DSOI.
Yes. And I would sit next to him on that pavement so that he could sell books.
Gosh, that was hard life.
That was a hard life. And when I was 7, they decided to go separate ways. And I still remember that house looked very big to me as a kid because you're 7 years old and you have a sister who's 5, you have another sister who's 3. And I remember standing outside that house. The first time I got a whack from my mom was for multiplication tables in that house. I realized later it was a laundry owner's wash shop. And I looked outside. It was the only home that I'd known. She said, "What the hell are you doing? Just get into the cycle rickshaw we had. That, the meter's ticking. Get on. We have to leave." And I kept looking at it and I said, "One day, I'll buy this house." She gave me a white, tight whack on the head. She says, "You're talking crap. Just get on the damn rickshaw. Let's go." So that was my last memory of that house. After that, we came to Delhi. It was difficult as a Bengali Brahmin girl to have married a Punjabi Khatri. My grandfather, my Nana, we call him Dadu, had contributed to what you know now as Dokhin Dilli Kalibadi, to making the Kalibadi.
Okay.
So for them, it was a culture shock. And I remember my entire life, as long as my grandfather was alive and my grandmother was alive, she used to never cross the kitchen ka dehliz. And I used to always wonder, I said, "Ab dehliz kyun nahi paar karte hai?" She said, "Nahi, shaadi ke baad ab main, because I'm married out, I can't step in."
Oh my goodness.
So I've seen all that, and that's why I'm very intent that if you can ease the life of women, if you can ease the life of single parents, families, that's the best contribution that you can do as a politician. I came into politics because I'd seen so much. And I was very clear that you can contribute as a social activist to a certain limit, but you need policy in place which makes people's life better. So, I still remember my first movie was Sound of Music at Chanakyapuri. The only difference was my Nana said ki ya to bus ka paisa hai to film ka paisa hai. So with him, I remember this long walking stick, I held one end of it. We walked all the way from Kalibadi to Chanakya just to watch the movie. So I've seen that life. I remember 84. We had to cross this place next to the Gurdwara to go to school.
Yeah.
And I remember the mayhem, the chaos, the burnt body smell. I remember people saying, "Udhar dekho nahi, सीधा चलो." So they would, there's a gully right next to your office.
Yes.
अगर हमको shortcut लेना है तो हम आपकी वो गली से निकल के जा सकते हैं सामने की गली में और स्कूल पहुंच सकते हैं.
Yeah.
That was the only time. And if you look, whoever lives in this area knows that near Malai Mandir is the taxi stand, which was run by Sikh community. And my house of my Nana's was right there. So I remember standing on the chat, watching it burn. And my mother was at Mansingh. And you don't have phones and you don't have the amenities. And you're desperate for her to come back because she does the night shift. And she finds some way of communicating. She calls somebody calls somebody, and somebody gets to my Nana to say that there has been a Sikh employee who is hacked around the circle. So the management is keeping the staff, and especially the women, in the hotel so that, they don't fall to some misfortune. So when I speak against the Gandhis, I speak with that passion because I've seen all this. I've witnessed it as a kid. I have questioned why. And that entire period, I had to go all the way around to get to school because the only...
It's seared in your memory, right?
When you're 8, when you're 7, when you're 12, it stays with you for the rest of your life. When you've seen poverty and you're too young, your foundational years have shown you that. It stays. It doesn't matter how successful you become later on in life. That stays. That chip on your shoulder just stays forever.
When you go to Taj, does that come back to you?
So my first house as MP was opposite Taj. And I called my mom from there. And I said, Taj Machan is a very popular restaurant there. The chef at that time was a very nice gentleman. Still is. And women who could not afford, the chef there is very nice. And when my mother served, women like her who were single, could not afford to get home because we had to leave for school at 7:30 max. And she would come back from work at 7. He would give a sandwich made out of leftovers. And we would carry that to school. And everybody at school thought we are some it girls because we had Taj ka sandwich. They did not know it was out of leftovers. Because, when kids sit together, they say, chalo share karte hain. I would like, no. So they thought I was being a bit hoity but I knew that this is a chef's benevolence. So when I got my first house as MP, I called my mum.
Where was she?
She was in Mumbai at the time.
Mumbai, okay.
So I called her and I said, Amma, guess where the house is? And she's like, don't show off. I said, no, it's opposite Taj.
She's still telling you don't show off. She's telling you what not to do.
Yeah. And
Moms
I
will be
said,
moms,
can
right?
Can you come next time you're here? We'll pay for the sandwich at Matian. And I went there and I asked for that sandwich because it had a kya bolte hain usko?
Toothpick like
type.
thing, huh?
It had a rabbit on it. So the first thing I went, and by then none of them knew who I was from my past life. So the people who were serving there were wondering why I'm asking. I said, "वो toothpick abhi hai kya?" So they just looked at me and like, "What is wrong with you?" But I knew what it meant for me. So I said, "We'll go back. This time we'll pay for it."
Oh my God.
So even my dad, my entire life went opposing him ideologically. His politics were centered around, the Congress Gandhi family. I think he's the only person who didn't celebrate when I won in 2019.
Wow.
For him, I defeated his Neta's son, which was unforgivable. He dissuaded me from fighting 2004. In fact, Congress party did call him and say, "Malhotra ji, आप बेटी को बोलिए छोड़ दे." He said, "मैं नहीं बोल सकता उसको." He said, "फिर आप हमारे लिए आके प्रचार कीजिए." So it was like that in 2004. For him to turn around and say he had taken a fall before he met the Prime Minister, in fact, 2-3 days before, and 74 years old, he fell down. And as you have aging parents, you get a bit worried. So I asked him, he said, "मुझे जाने से पहले एक बार नरेंद्र मोदी देखना है." Now, for a man who had politically, ideologically been on the opposite side of the fence, to say, "I want to see Modi once," I put in the request, and the Prime Minister was kind enough. I knew it was a busy day. I said, "I just need 5 minutes," because I was genuinely worried my dad's going. And he met the Prime Minister, and he said, "I just want to see you to say thank you. What you've done for the country." He says, "I've been in politics for a good 40-50 years. My father said, "I have seen what the country was perceived as internationally." I think for me, that was like life coming a full circle. That at 74, your father finally says, "Modi ko mujhe ek baar bolna hai, thank you."
For a daughter, it matters
So when
a lot.
Especially if you're ideologically opposed to your father. You've fought his ideology your entire life. And I think I called him